Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I want to welcome everyone to our Westside Neighborhood Association's Coalition District 6 City Council Forum. Our coalition works to unite, promote, and empower our community. One of our focused areas is to provide a way for District 6 community to be involved in making informed voting decisions. WNAC does not endorse any political candidates. I'm Velma Pena, president of the Westwood Square Neighborhood Association and WNAC, and will serve as your moderator today. Questions will be from Los Jardines members and WNAC committee members. We want to thank Eric Estrada, president of Los Jardines, for providing the virtual platform today. Aggie Jamarillo, can you please wave your hand, Aggie? Aggie Jamarillo is president of Los Puentes and member of WNAC, and she will be our timekeeper today. Cynthia Spielman, with steering committee member of the Tier 1 Neighborhood Coalition and member of WNAC, she will be doing the ground rules, reading the ground rules today. Wave your hand, Cynthia. We have Mark Olivares. He is secretary of Los Jardines, and he will be also asking questions today. We have Lauro de Leon, vice president of Los Jardines, and he will also be one of the persons that will be asking questions. We have Marisela Garza. She is president of the Gardendale Neighborhood Association and member of WNAC as well, and she will also be asking questions. And then myself, Velma Pena, will be asking questions, and Cynthia Spielman will also be asking questions. We want to thank the candidates today that are present here today: Chris Baecker, Melissa Havrda, and Robert Hernandez. All candidates were invited. Only two did not reply: Robert Walker and Irina Rudolph. They did not reply. Cynthia, go ahead with the ground rules.
Microphone is muted, except the moderator and timekeeper and the candidate currently speaking. Chat will not be available. There'll be no personal attacks, please. This forum is not a debate. Please abide by the guidelines and please be respectful of the moderator and timekeeper. Candidates, each candidate will be able to give an intro or bio for 2 minutes. Candidates will be asked a question and they will have 1 minute to respond. They will get a 15-second alert and then a stop sign. Aggie, please raise the stop sign so people know what to expect. Okay, thank you. And the candidates closing, you'll each get 2 minutes. Velma will introduce the candidates to present their bios and intros. Velma?
First one will be Chris Baecker. To do you have your 2 minutes to do your introduction.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Chris Baecker. Thank you for inviting me, first of all, to this. This is probably one of the more important forums because it's District 6 centric. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I've been in District 6 for about 13 or 14 years in San Antonio for the entire century. I like to say it that way because it makes it sound bigger. I've worked in the energy industry that whole time, actually since I've been in District 6 in the Texas or US energy renaissance. And I have 4 daughters in NISD schools. The youngest, we're about to leave elementary school for the last time, and my oldest is about to graduate Warren High School. She's within a hair of getting on the top 10 in the stage. I'm going to brag about that from here on out because I think it's way better than I did in high school, and I think it's a really cool thing. I have been teaching economics in my free time up the road at Northwest Vista College for 6 or 7 years. And the last couple of years, enough has built up to push me to where I'm at right now, sitting before you folks, looking for votes to get on the city council to help people flourish in the best way that they can. And the main thing that got me into this was the government's reaction or overreaction to the pandemic. But there are other things that have built up as well, and we may or may not address some of those as time goes on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baecker. And now we'll have Melissa Havrda.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me today. Thank you to Velma, Eric, Aggie, and Cynthia for putting this together. I was born and raised in District 6. I decided to run for office to give back to the community that raised me. I'm a disability attorney by trade and really value the opportunity to work towards equality for all people. I have a JD from St. Mary's, an MBA from UTSA, and I own my own law firm and also have taught at Northwest Vista, both criminal law and business law. In my first term on council, I focused on tangible investments in public safety, infrastructure maintenance and improvement, workforce training, business development, and accessible and responsive city services. I prioritized the addition of a full-time enhanced squad to Fire Station 44. I don't know if y'all know this, but Fire Station 44 near Marbach and 410 is the busiest single engine station in the city. I recently learned that it was one of the busiest stations in the state up until recently. And part of the reason it's not is because of the enhanced fire squad. We were able to get them last year. And this helps us by serving to reduce response times for emergencies when they happen in our families, when medical emergencies happen. I also work with my council colleagues and city staff to secure $44 million for the District 6 Capital Investment Program, which will fund 16 public works projects in District 6. I continually sought new opportunities to strategically grow our local business and community, attracting to District 6 the headquarters for FGF Brands Bakery, which is just up the road from Edgewood, as is Austin Bridge and Road, and the expansion of University Hospital System's Northwest facility with a critically needed heliport. So we're going to have a new university hospital system here in District 6 very soon. While facing tremendous budgetary constraints and multiple events which seem determined to shake our collective resolve, my team and I remain focused on District 6, always. It's been an honor and a privilege to represent my constituents, and together I know we can continue to strategically grow District 6 into a place where neighborhoods are connected and safe, businesses both small and large thrive, and where we can all continue to feel fortunate to call District 6 home. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rada. Now we'll have Robert Hernandez.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello,
Yes.
my name is Robert Hernandez. I'm running for District 6. I'm getting my tongue tied. Born and raised in San Antonio, not too far. I was born not too far from here. I'm last 9 years I've been working for a local nonprofit on the housing side. Before that, I worked part-time for Parks and Rec. So I've been in some of the rec centers. I went to Holmes High School, graduated from Holmes High School. Reason I'm running is I've always been to politics and kind of the local politics, kind of making sure our citizens are getting what they need. I think right now we're kind of in a turning point where we can either go, we can go to where we're in a crisis mode with housing, infrastructure, and COVID recovery, or we could flourish. I think I bring more of an outside the box thinking. Like I said, for the last 9 years, I worked in a local nonprofit, and I think that's given me experience that not many people have, dealing with different situations, different folks and their situations, and seeing the real need of what the community needs out there. So I'm here, and it's weird because I really don't like talking about myself, and so I always stumble on these. But if you get to sit down and talk with me, I could do this all day. We can sit down and just talk about ideas and how we can move this district forward. I really am here to help the citizens and kind of make sure everybody has a say. And I think that's really about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. And now we will move on to our first guest that's going to will be asking the questions, which will be Mark Olivares. Is he on board?
Yes, my name is Mark Olivares. Thank you, candidates, for joining us. This first question is going to be for Chris Baecker. How will you bring health awareness and promote fitness and nutritional benefits to District 6?
First of all, by living by example. I've been wary of that ever since I was a kid, and my knowledge of health, uh, good diet, good exercise has evolved ever since I played football in high school. And you know that these dietary guidelines change from time to time, but there's also literature out there. Like the South Beach diet was big in my personal experience. I ran 5 marathons, I think, between 2012 and 2013. Not everybody, I'm not going to do that again. But just leading by example and just giving a guide to what is good to eat and just getting out and walking or exercising for 30 minutes a day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chris. This next question is for Melissa Cabello. Same question, actually.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, what I've done so far is near Edgewood, we're working on a park. I'm looking at a really big park. I'd like to bring a destination park to San Antonio. And part of that, I just walked through Edgewood this morning, and I heard from a lot of seniors about padded walking trails. And so we're looking into doing that, as well as outdoor health equipment for the individuals and all throughout the district to use, but it'll be near Edgewood. I've also been working with the Food Policy Council on urban farming. I did a CCR for urban farming, and I want to bring a food forest to the district. I'm very excited about this, and we've made some initial steps to have not just a community garden, but actual fruit trees. And so we'll have fresh produce, fresh fruits and vegetables in the district. I've partnered with the food bank to actually bring fresh produce into the district as well. Just about 2 weeks ago, we had a fresh produce distribution there at the Police Center for Edgewood ISD. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Melissa. Same question for Mr. Robert. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Please do.
How will you bring health awareness and promote fitness and nutritional benefits to District 6?
So I today was also block walking by Edgewood. I used to actually work at Cuellar Community Center, so I do know that area really well. One things, well, block walking is saying that they don't have people that area don't have good food choices. They would love to have a new HEB. Is one thing that they would want. One of the things I'm really big in is with parks. Like I said, I used to work for parks. I believe fitness in the park is a great program, but we do need to kind of engage more with our citizens, and especially at a young age. Once we teach kids at a young age, it's a lifelong trait that they would have. One things I would kind of want to do is make sure that parks are safe for our children to be in. More sports programs. I used to coach youth basketball, and so I think that's something that we can look into. So right now it's super hard to engage kids. They rather stay home on their phones. I have a teen, and he just rather be as active he is. When he gets home, it's on the phone. So we got to figure out a way to kind of bridge that digital gap, or try to make it interesting. Maybe EA Sports in the gyms, so the kids can get in there and then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Starbucks.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. Okay, so the next question is for Melissa Cabello. Recently, homeless camps are now spreading out onto the west side. What would you do to stop encampments and provide shelter for the homeless?
Thank you for that question. So I've done several encampments where we go out. I've done a ride along with SAPD, and we've gone out and talked to individuals about what happened. Why are they there? Do they want to stay there? I think initially the city was cleaning them up, and of course we want to make sure that the areas are cleaned up for the neighborhoods. But I come from a place of compassion on this. I want to make sure that the people that are experiencing homelessness, have a place to go. We have a great resource in Haven for Hope, but they're overburdened. And so one of the things we did as a city was commission some providers to come in and look at how we can do that, how we can help. And unfortunately, what they want to tell us is to throw more money at it. But for me, it's about using nonprofits. I worked with the San Antonio Parks Foundation under Mayor Cockrell, and remember how hard nonprofits work in the community. And for me, that's the key. It's really engaging the community and using these nonprofits and their resources and providing them more resources, the delegate agencies, to get out and reach out for the encampments, the people that are living in the encampments, to provide them those resources.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Melissa. Same question for Mr. Robert.
So, like I said, I do work for a local nonprofit that deals with homelessness and the housing side. So one of the things I would kind of do for chronically homeless is to have the city start a housing first program. And that is where we have units available for our chronically homeless. We put those individuals in those units, and then we surround them by services. Homelessness is not a choice. Nobody ever grows up wanting to be homeless. So there's usually an underlying issue going on, either addiction, mental health. So we got to first address those issues so we can address the homeless issue. Another thing I would also kind of we need to build trust relationships with these individuals. Homelessness is not a person; it's a thing you go through. You go through you're being homeless. Everybody knows somebody, and if like I work with homeless people, and so they're everybody. They're out around. They're people that take care of your kids. They're people that help you at the store. Another thing I would kind of do is try to get barriers, reduce barriers for alternative housing, which would be like tiny homes. I know there was a church that built tiny homes.
Bob, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. Same question for Mr. Chris.
Well, being the last one to address this question, I hate to piggyback on Councilwoman Havrda and Robert, but I like some of what I heard, especially the nonprofit. Most of my charitable donations go to assistance for domestic abuse victims and orphanages. And Robert brought up a good point about the source of homelessness. And I was, while he was saying that, I was writing down some notes, and mental health was what came out, because I think that's most of what you find. And the tiny homes was a good idea, because my cousin built those not for a living, but he built a few of those some years back. And I don't know what our regulations are, but I know there was a big issue about it in LA not too long ago. There should be no issue about something like that. If somebody does that, they should be able to, use that as their shelter. So clearing hurdles, I think, would be a bit, another step to take.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chris. Okay, so the next question will be a two-part, and I will try to separate these two questions thoroughly. Currently, some of the neighborhood needs are a senior / community / center / library. Will you reach out to neighboring council members to accomplish common constituent goals, especially at or near council district borders, specifically District 5, to make these projects a reality? And the second part of that question is, book deserts are communities that have little to no access to reading and learning materials. Are you open to working with school districts and other organizations to open a community library? First question for Mr. Robert.
Yes. So like I said, I'm real big with Parks and Recs. I kind of grew up through Parks and Recs, so I understand how they are a fiber of our community. We're all Santonians at the end. I mean, yes, we're all individual districts, but at the end, what's good for one district is good for the neighboring districts. I would definitely reach out to get more senior citizens, community centers, and also as far as the book and library kind of stuff, I would definitely reach out, try to get more libraries going. Also, kind of digitize the libraries. We got to learn how to kind of reach out to generations that aren't reading books and are on tablets. I mean, so I think that's something that we could kind of work towards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. Same question for Chris. If you'd like me to repeat it, I'll be happy to do that for you.
No, I think I got it. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I go astray, let me know. I would absolutely work with council colleagues. District 5 you mentioned, because that's part of the gig. It is San Antonio. I would absolutely do that in the benefit of the seniors. Um, the library, that's a good question. If there is anybody, going back to the last question about orphanages and victims of domestic abuse, if there is anybody that merits public support, it's kids, it's children, and public library is a good way to do that because no kid should be deprived of reading options just because they can't afford it. So I know we have, I think it's the Great Northwest Library over here on Grissom, I believe. That's the only one I've seen. There may be another one. I'd check out how much that one is used and then see, just look for a good location for another one because I can't think of too many better uses for taxpayer funds than reading opportunities for kids especially.
Thank you, Mr. Chris. Same question for Ms. Melissa. I can repeat the question for you if you want me to.
I have it, Eric. Thank you. So I think the key to this is the WETC, the Westside Educational Training Center. We have looked very seriously. Also, we have bonds coming up, and the senior center is something I know that I've heard a lot of need is required in Edgewood. Senior center, community center, and we've talked with the WETC board about potentially having a District 6 field office out there. So I'm excited about using some bond dollars to get some facilities out there. And it doesn't matter, of course, I always work with, right now it's Councilwoman Gonzalez, but very soon it'll be somebody different in District 5. There's no boundaries in real life. So it doesn't matter if the footprint is in District 5 or District 6, as long as it's serving that community. As far as libraries, I'm really grateful to have talked with Dr. Hernandez and then board members Luis Gomez and Joe Guerra on the Edgewood School District about reading opportunities in the district. They've done a fantastic job, this board and Dr. Hernandez, to work towards that. I think we could also use those little free libraries and work with also the county to bring in a library facility. They have a great online facility that we could tap into. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And the next question is for Mr. Chris. How will you create more greenway trails and parks?
First of all, see where there's some open space available for it, and include that if it's not already. I presume it is in part of the capital budget. That's just explore it, see if we need any more, see if there's any places that are devoid of it, kind of like the food deserts that were alluded to earlier. Just look around and see what's available and see where, there's an area that's particularly devoid of something like that and kick off the process.
Thank you, Mr. Chris. Same question for Ms. Melissa.
Thank you, Eric. So I'm very excited to say that we've used a lot of our funding, District 6 funding, to create new parks and also have a park improvements. We created Orr Park, not too far from John Jay High School. And one of my big items that I always bring up at the budget and I'm accumulating dollars for, and also for the bond, is the destination park that I want to bring to District 6. I want like a small Brackenridge Park in District 6. We've spent a lot of time. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at that right now around Nelsonville Stadium. There's about 50 acres we're looking at right now, where we'll hopefully include the food forest. I mentioned the padded walkway for our seniors and some exercise equipment. I want these parks to be used by everyone, from the younger to the older. I love seeing grandparents going out with their grandchildren and enjoying these parks. We also need to support Cuellar Park. There's a lot of lighting issues out there. I speak with Mr. Hector Santos about it a lot, and we're looking at putting new bleachers out there. So it's not just new parks, although that's very important, but park improvements to our existing parks are very important as well.
Thank you, Ms. Melissa. And last question for Robert.
As far as parks, I said that is one of my things. I think if we get citizens in parks, one of the things that COVID kind of did display, and one of the things that we've known is this city has an obesity issue, and once we get people in the parks, I think that will help a lot as far as having green space out there. I would most definitely have that on the top of my priority. Like I said, I grew up in the park, so I know how important they are. Honestly, if I didn't have a park, I might not be here. I might be somewhere. If I didn't have a place to go and take that energy out and be safe and hang out with my friends, I could be in jail, honestly. So I do think the parks may play a big part of this community. And like I said, Cuellar, Melendres, Garza, two of them are not in our district. I do think we have a beautiful park in Tom Slick in the middle of the district. And I think we're as much space as we can get to make parks and centers and stuff so the community can use. I think to me, the community centers are the fiber of the community, and we should.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Robert. That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you very much for answering those questions. I'm going to transition to Mr. De Leon.
Mark, can you please continue with the questions, Mr. DeLeon's questions? Can you please continue them?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next question is, what are your short and long-term goals for the neighborhood, District 6, and the city? This question is for Ms. Melissa.
Thank you. I firmly believe in representative government. It's never about what I want when how I go to the dais. It's always about what the good people of District 6 want. I think that we're co-creating the neighborhoods that we want because we're working together. The main issues that I hear from constituents include traffic, infrastructure, public safety, and as we mentioned before, I'm grateful to say District 6 really cares about our parks. We're the fastest growing district in the city. In addition to the other items that I mentioned, I want to focus on smart growth. I think we have a lot of opportunity for small business development, and I've tried, really kind of get this grant out. And the old Highway 90 Enrique Barrera corridor, we've really worked hard to get grants to those legacy businesses that are there. And so I want to continue that. And our residents don't want to have to leave our own district to shop, eat, or play. So I regularly meet with small business owners who tell me about the issues that they face. The economic development corridor, again, along Old Highway 90, Enrique Barrera Parkway, I want to work on that as well. And then, of course, the food forest and our parks facilities is another big priority for me.
Thank you, Ms. Melissa. Same question for Mr. Robert.
So, top three priorities: COVID recovery. And that kind of encompasses getting small businesses back up. I know a lot of the businesses in kind of more in the inner west side are family run. There's not a lot of corporate companies in there. So getting those businesses back up. Second is housing. We have a housing issue, housing crisis with inventory, affordable housing, and just seniors and people just being taxed out of their house. You know what I mean? I had one guy I talked to this morning who lives in the Edgewood district and has a value of $340,000 on his house, and he didn't agree. So we're trying to educate him how to fight that. And then infrastructure, transportation. The mayor has his job program, which is great and everything, but they took the money away from VIA, which I believe was wrong because we are already behind on transportation, and now we're gonna have to wait 3 or 4 years for that money to start rolling into VIA. We need to get ahead of this before it becomes an issue. Like Melissa said, this is a fastest growing part of the district for the city, and we need to get ahead of that.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. Same question for Chris, and I'll go ahead and repeat it. What are your short and long-term goals for the neighborhood, District 6, and the city?
Short-term goals is to get the government out of the way of people going about their way and trading the fruits of their toil. And long term would be changing the mentality of those who, not only the voters, but those who get into office, that it is ever acceptable to restrict people's movements, ability to trade with other for any reason whatsoever. Because the shutdowns that we saw last year only made things worse. Freedom is always and everywhere the answer. As far as the property values go, I think the main problem there is property taxes. I don't know that anybody has a problem with their property being valued highly. It's the tax that they have to pay on it. So I would start the discussion about moving away from taxing necessities and taxing luxuries instead, housing being a necessity.
Thank you, Mr. Chris. The next question for Robert. What are your top 3 budget priorities?
Um, three budget infrastructure. Infrastructure is one of them. COVID relief and, like I said, housing. The same thing. Prop A. I'm for Prop A, so we could kind of see what we can use that. A housing bond would be great. Um, COVID recovery, opening small business, getting back on track, and then infrastructure and transportation, getting citywide broadband, especially in the inner city, is something that, going back to the library question, the world's on our phones, the world's on our tablets. We can be anywhere. A book, college classes, it's all there. We just need to get people access to that. I mean, there's no reason right now that anybody can say they can't get the education they would want unless they're not provided with a tablet or broadband. So those would be my main 3 things, like I said: COVID recovery, housing, and infrastructure, broadband, and transportation.
Thank you, Chris. Same question for Miss Melissa.
First, mine is, sorry, thank you. First, mine is small business development. We worked really hard with our, like I mentioned, our legacy businesses, but also bringing new business into the district. We're looking at even facilities that are already here and they're expanding so that we can employ more people. We can have more jobs actually brought to District 6, and that's something I'm working really hard on. Parks, I mentioned, of course, I have a deep love for them, as does the district, but not just new parks, but park improvements. I mentioned Quara Park. We're also looking at Tom Slick Park improvements. And always number one with the constituents of District 6 is our infrastructure: roads, drainage, sidewalks. We have significant drainage issues. I'm thinking especially along Marbach, around Penn Road, and several other areas in our district. And so that's something that I'm looking at for not only our budget, our city budget dollars, but bond dollars as well.
Thank you, Melissa. The next question. We do not have enough public transportation options in our neighborhood. The current bus routes do not meet the community needs. What would you do to meet the community needs? This question is for Chris.
Make sure we, I guess, see which of those parts of the community are underserved, and see if there's any other options other than the big, humongous via buses. And going back to Robert touched on this earlier, redirecting funds from stuff like the work programs, which is best left to employers and private businesses to handle, to more public transport for people who, for whatever reason, don't have a mode of transportation to get to their job.
Thank you, Mr. Chris. Same question for Ms. Melissa.
Thank you. So I think one of the keys is via link. We have to increase our via presence in District 6. It's absolutely lacking. There's parts of the district that, we really need that in order to get to work, in order to get to school. So part of that is not just via link, and that it's kind of like an Uber, for via. It's a free service that they're hopefully going to be providing. We're going to do a pilot here in District 6 very soon. But it's also the support for VIA. We have of course the funding that's going to go to that from the election in November, and I'm excited to see that money go to VIA. We really need the help. But also, covered bus stops, making sure that our bike lanes are safe so that you can get to the bus. There's a lot of people that ride their bikes to the bus stop, put the bike on the bus, and then go downtown or where they need to go to work. Sidewalks. I know a lot along the Edgewood route. Sometimes I was there today, there was a pack of dogs that I had to call ACS on, right? So making sure that I got an ACS officer just for District 6, and making sure that the paths to our public transportation are safe. But also, I think Via Link really is the key. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Melissa. Same question for Mr. Robert.
So one of the things I would love to see is more of the Primo service kind of routes. I think the city needs building hubs. I know there's a hub, I think on 281, that's not being used too well, where we need to reduce traffic on the roads. And so I think Via is the key to that. Primo, we gotta make it convenient. My mom used to ride the bus. and I would go sometimes with her on the bus, and we would have to sit there for an hour. I don't know, it's still like that, but I do work with people who tell me it takes 3-4 hours to get from one side of the city to the other side, and that's not feasible. We need bus routes that 15-20 minutes, they come in continuously. I mean, that's one thing for sure. And
15,
so, okay.
15,
So that's
is
one
there,
thing. Just studying and finding routes that are used and using them properly.
Thank you, Mr. Robert. Okay, next question. If you received a COVID recovery grant to use for the district in any way you wanted, what would you do with it and why? This question's for Melissa.
Thank you. I would absolutely help to fund small businesses, mainly because we really want to make sure we've seen a lot of small businesses shutter their doors because they weren't able to make it, even with loans from the government. And so it's really something that I want to focus on, are locally owned businesses. I always lament that we don't have enough kind of mom and pop shops in the district. We have a lot on, along the old Highway 90 corridor, but I'd like to see more. So that's one thing that I would do. Also, for the bigger companies, maybe a little bit of funding, but mostly towards upskilling, making sure that their employees are able to acquire more skills so that they can get paid higher wages, and also bring in people that have, there's a lot of people unemployed right now because of the pandemic. So making sure that they're using those dollars to employ people and to upskill people as well.
Thank you, Ms. Melissa. This question's for the same question for Mr. Robert.
So one thing, most definitely job recovery. I mean, job recovery. And then after that, making sure, I believe one thing COVID did show is the benefit of being healthy. I had the boy ended up getting COVID. He's real active. He went through it really well, and thank God. I mean, just the fear of having what could happen, being in the same household. But I attribute that to him being healthy, him running every day, lifting weights every day. I mean, so I think we got to get people healthy again in this community to, so in case this ever happens again, that we're able to sustain better. So that's one thing I would kind of do with that funding. The digital divide was terrible. I remember trying to get tablets from the schools, them not having tablets, cords not matching, kids not having Wi-Fi, just kind of the struggle of me becoming a teacher when like what I mean, with work, trying to learn how to operate office.
Thank you, Robert. Same question for Chris.
First of all, I'd be curious where this quote unquote grant came from, because if it came from the government, then it's taxpayer funded or it's debt sourced. And it's indicative of what we saw last year, where the government can, takes it upon itself to shut these businesses down, thinking that they can take care of things on the other end by using tax money to tide things over. After making that a long-term thing to check into. As far as the grant goes, I would probably, the first thing that came to mind is helping the small businesses that are still up and running take care of any debt that they may have incurred. And then, if it's grant money, I'd probably just look into seeing who was indirectly hurt by the government's response or directly hurt by the government's response to the pandemic, and see if they could be a target of some of this grant also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chris. Thank you, candidates, for answering these questions. I'm going to transition to Ms. Maricela. Thank you.
Hello, candidates. This is Maricela. And my set of questions will start with Mr. Robert Hernandez. District 6 is growing at a rapid pace and is the fastest growing city council district. What will you do to try to keep neighborhoods together during the next redistricting coming up in the next year or two?
And that's I barely hear you.
Okay, I can repeat. Sorry about that. I might have to,
I can hear you better now.
better? Okay.
Yeah.
So the question is for Mr. Hernandez. District 6 is growing at a rapid pace and is the fastest growing city council district. One moment.
Okay.
Turn sideways. Can,
If I believe the question is pretty much is district is fastest growing district, the redistricting line's coming up pretty soon. What I would kind of want what to do with the redistricting lines, if I got
Let me
that
go,
correct?
let me go ahead and read the question. It says District 6 is growing at a rapid pace and is the fastest growing city council district. What will you do to try and keep neighborhoods together during the next redistricting coming up in the next year or two?
Okay, so that's one of my things. This is actually one of the reasons um, this district is so wide. Honestly, the Edgewood side gets overlooked so much. Um, and I work in that part, and we can say we're doing this and we're doing that, and I don't see it. I mean, I don't see it. If you take a drive through the district from Edgewood to 1604, it is night and day. I mean, the citizens of the inner part of the six want an HEB. They're in this HEB that was built in what, the 40s, and they don't. But I mean, and when I was walking today, they're asking for simple things: lines cleared up from trees, a Bill Miller's, a new HEB. So I would definitely look into it. I think some of the, and not to sound rude, but I think some of the district is not being looked at, and I would think it would be beneficial to shift those boundaries so you get more attention. Sorry about that.
Thank you. We lost Marisela. Let me just make double check. Marisela, can you hear us?
I can hear you, but yes, I can hear you, but I don't think I'll
Okay.
have my video, like the video. Is
Well,
that
that's
okay?
fine. Go ahead and just, you don't have to use the video. Go ahead and read your questions. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
For the second candidate, District 6 is growing at a rapid pace, and it is the fastest growing city council district. What will you do to try to keep neighborhoods together during the next redistricting coming up in the next year or two? And this question is for Mr. Chris Baker.
To be honest with you, I'm not 100% clear on how the redistricting works on a local level, but I imagine it. You know, you have the population of San Antonio, and you got to divide it into 10. You know, I imagine the core will stay intact, and you know, if things shift, there's going to be some shifting. Like I said, I imagine most of the neighborhoods will stay in District 6, and some of them will drift into a neighboring district, which they're probably already familiar with somewhat. I went down to an HEB. I think it was on the far east side of the district, probably right along the line of District 5 and District 6. You know, I don't know that there's a lot that can be done to keep all of it together, because the numbers are just, if San Antonio is growing like we hear it is, the redistricting necessarily is going to change the way the lines look.
Stop. Thank
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Same question for Ms. Melissa Havrda.
Thank you, Thank you, Marisela. The District 6 goes from, you know, we have a little bit of Alamo Ranch over to Southwest 37th, and then Food Bank over to Ingram. It's expansive. But I think the way that we stop, you know, the lines from being redrawn and breaking up neighborhoods is to make sure that we're pooling our resources. Our resources in the city have been spread very thin. The culture of each neighborhood is very distinct, and neighborhoods in all throughout District 6 are very proud of their neighborhoods. Everybody has their own distinct culture, and they're very proud of them, and they should be. I love going to different neighborhoods and the kind of the different nuances and what they celebrate and what they have a passion for. But partnering with other council districts, the county, Bexar County, with our county commissioners, and our state reps to pull those resources is really where that's the key to making sure that our resources stay within the district. I mentioned my mind is I'm always focused on District 6. There's a lot of citywide issues that we look at, but my mind is always on District 6 and always keeping the neighborhoods together. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be, how will you reduce crime in our neighborhoods so that residents feel safe? Mr. Chris Baker.
I guess again, it's leading by example. I think a lot of the, honestly don't know exactly how the crime breaks down in District 6. I go back to leading by example. Some crimes arguably shouldn't be so. I imagine a lot of crime revolves around drugs. Like I said, I go back to leading by example and speaking out and just giving better alternatives. Robert mentioned something earlier. The libraries, having parks in the district would be provide better alternatives to to crime. But I think leading by example and encouraging parents to guide their children and stay with their children, be in their children's lives.
Thank you for that answer. Same question, Ms. Melissa Havrda.
I'm sorry, Marisela, I couldn't hear you. Do you mind repeating it?
No worries. How will you reduce crime in our neighborhoods so that residents feel safe?
Thank you. So part of it is I'm very grateful to be the chair of our Public Safety and Municipal Courts Committee. I have a background in criminal law. I know that we can't arrest problems away. We have a lot of mental health issues to deal with. Today I was talking with a young lady whose neighbor was shooting guns the other day, and he's not a bad guy. He just has some mental health issues, right? So what I want to do and what we've been working on is expanding our cite and release rules to give officers more opportunity to not just arrest people and take them to the county where they're going to be released very soon anyway, but to kind of talk to them and coach them. I think that, of course, our parents need to be involved in children's lives, but that just doesn't always happen. So we need the community to step up. So going back to a community center, our safe officers who do a wonderful job of coaching and helping young people, and making sure that we're providing the resources that we need. Again, partnering with nonprofits to provide resources to young people, knowing that domestic violence is not okay, that, just regular, theft, things like that are not okay. And so we need to help coach them along. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Robert Hernandez.
So, like I said, one of the biggest things is community parks. You know what I mean? Giving opportunities for families to get together and know each other. I don't know if anybody here knows of any officers that routinely patrol their neighborhood or engage with their neighbors and on a one-on-one basis. I like to see what I would consider community policing. Having police in parks. There's times when they're doing reports. Why not do that in a community center parking lot instead of the back of an HEB? Something like that, something small like that, where it kind of gives you that kind of safety presence in a park where you can be safe. National Night Out, let's start doing San Antonio Night Out, especially everybody's been cooped up for the last year, and I know once everybody gets vaccinated, everybody wants to be out there and just enjoying. Another thing is youth leagues. Midnight basketball needs to come back. Having Spurs League throughout the year, not just once a time of season. Thank you.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Next question from Melissa Havrda. Do you support the propositions on the ballot regarding police reform and accountability, and why?
Thank you. The repeal of the adoption of Texas Local Government Code 174 provides for collective bargaining for San Antonio police officers. As chair of the Public Safety Committee, I remain balanced and unbiased, and in doing so, I'm supportive of the petitioner's right for a proposition vote. I think it's really amazing that they were able to procure the signatures that they needed, and they're allowing the voters' voices to be heard. And like so many other things, of course, we voted to put that on the ballot because they got the votes. I mean, they got the signatures, and so it's important to let that process play out. But regardless of the outcome of the election, I'm committed to continuing to lead our Public Safety Committee into policy that helps improve SAPD personnel. As patrol officers have also told me directly, of course, they want bad officers off the force as well. We mentioned safe officers. I think that's also really important to keep funding. Those are community policing officers. And residents who want reform have a concern over policing, and I respect that and have part of rooting it out what those beliefs and experiences are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Aggie. Same question, Mr. Robert Hernandez. Would you like to repeat?
So, Prop B. First of all, I don't know if they still are, but the city and the union are in negotiations, which I think should be postponed until after the election. If they do make a deal, it would be probably in place for the next 13 years. So whatever the city says on May 1st would be neglected. Second of all, I am against it. I believe SAPD and their officers should be able to negotiate for better wages and healthcare, but they should not be able to negotiate for any disciplinary action. I would like to see a citizen review board that is binding. Right now, they do have a review board from the citizens, but it is non-binding. Be the final say. SAPD works for the citizens, and the citizens should have a say on what is the last say on that. Like I said, if police officers want to negotiate contract-wise for wages and healthcare benefits, I'm all for that, but not for disciplinary action.
Thank you. Same question, Chris Baecker.
You know, in the economic growth chapter that I teach, some of the important prerequisites for a society to flourish are, in addition to contractual and property rights respect, is legal or fair and even distribution of justice, law enforcement. For that reason, I will always support the existence and the necessity of a police force. You know, the Prop B, unions as a rule of thumb tend to gum up society. They slow progress. We saw just the other day that the citizens or workers in Alabama realized that by almost a 3-to-1 margin in voting down unionization for the Amazon plan. I'm undecided on Prop B, but I'm leaning I'm leaning to vote for it because I don't think it's defunding the police, and I think unions usually do more harm than they do good.
Thank you for that answer. Next question for Mr. Robert Hernandez. How will you improve infrastructure, sidewalks, and streets?
Can you repeat that?
How will you improve infrastructure, sidewalks, and streets?
Oh, just using the funds that are available, making sure that our streets that do need repair are repaired. Sometimes driving to the district, you see streets that are perfectly fine being repaired, and I'm like, why is that happening when there is sidewalks on some parts of the district that are unwalkable? One thing I would try to get as much money as possible for infrastructure. Apparently, there might be a big infrastructure plan being passed. Let's get as much money we can for streets, sidewalks, and like I said, another one of that to me is also infrastructure would be street lighting and also citywide broadband. I think that would be my main plan.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Chris Baecker.
Infrastructure and the sidewalks and roads are some of the most basic functions and services that is required of a municipality. So that would get first priority in my office every day of the week. And it would be helpful to steer the government out of areas where it doesn't belong, where it doesn't do as good of a job in the private sector. So we can focus on these things that will foster prosperity and a flourishing of the society. And one of those things, two of those things, or if you want to say just infrastructure in general, and I mean infrastructure in the classic sense, roads, sidewalks, not the way it's currently being redefined in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. I'll try to put up closer the next passing through. So we're gonna forward over the next questions to Ms. Cynthia Spearman. Thank you.
Councilwoman get to answer the question. Did the
I
question?
think we missed one candidate on that last
Oh,
question.
dear. Oh, my goodness. I'm looking at, I'm sorry, Ms. Melissa. I was taking notes and I got carried away. My apologies. But thank you for waiting. Thank you
No,
for
no.
waiting. I was like, what's happening? Did something happen? Okay.
No,
so
no,
the
no
question-
problem.
I'll repeat.
No, I don't need you to repeat it. I have it.
You have it. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Since infrastructure is so important to my constituents, I prioritize a monthly meeting with the Public Works Department to ensure that the $44 million in road, intersections, pedestrian mobility, and parks improvements is on time and on budget. So not only did I fight and advocate for those dollars, but I'm meeting with them to make sure that we're staying on time and we're staying on budget. Infrastructure, sidewalks, streets, I drive through the district all throughout the year, at least once a week. Me and my staff drive through the district and we're looking for those areas. We're really grateful to have, of course, the data from 311 when our constituents call in and want to talk about streets. I'm a disability lawyer. When I see a sidewalk busted up, it makes me crazy because I think about a person who's in a wheelchair, or maybe even an older person in a cane, and how they can't navigate that sidewalk. They have to get on the street and then they have to worry about traffic. So it's absolutely a passion and a priority for me. And I'll continue to fight for budgetary dollars for District 6 for those issues. I'll collaborate with other council districts on a lot of things, but on this, I'm very District 6 selfish, and I'll continue to do that and fight and advocate for our dollars.
Thank you so much, and my apologies once again.
Not at all.
Now we will move on to Ms. Cynthia Spearman. Thank you.
Thank you, Maricela. Food deserts are a great concern for our community. How will you address food deserts in District 6? Mr. Baecker, please.
Oh man, I've noticed that as I've driven through the district, I think I noticed a La Fiesta along Callahan, and I think it was the HEB that I referenced earlier toward the border with District 5. I would look for where there's space for and a good location for where there could be another grocery store, preferably HEB, because I'm as much of an HEB homer as any other Texan. But anybody that would be willing to open one there, La Fiesta or Sun Harvest or anybody, and just clear away all the hurdles that they seem to think that there may be from having a grocery store there, because it's kind of sad to see these have been named food deserts. We should try to lean on some grocers to maybe open up a store, or maybe a neighborhood Walmart, something maybe smallish, whatever is necessary, whatever can work.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Cabello-Havrda.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've been working with a property owner in District 6, actually very, very close to the big church off by Old Highway 90. They have some land and they want to donate it to have the big chain grocery store. So we're working with a Walmart and HEB to see which one of those can come in and provide the big chain grocery store right there in the heart of Edgewood, where people can walk or they can bike to or ride the bus to the grocery store. But there's a city initiative, a healthy corner store initiative that I was able to get funded in this last budget. And that's what I'm really working on, because it's more, it's just a little smaller. It's more close to the community. and it's going to offer fresh produce at a reasonable, valuable price. So I'm really looking forward to getting that implemented in the area. And then I mentioned the food forest. For those of you who don't know, food forest is a big tract of land. I'm looking at about 10 acres near Nelson Wolff Stadium to have fruit trees. And there's going to be a nonprofit that will come in and cultivate the garden. So we can go in and just pick actual fruit off the trees, and a community garden to, you know, grow cucumbers and tomatoes and all of that and distribute it throughout the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
So this is one of the issues that I think about. One of the things I would love to see, maybe, as Melissa said, corner stores, teaming up with Valero. I know Target, if you go to Target and you're a small child, you're able, from their little snack bar, you're able to get fruit, you know what I mean, for free. So something that I would kind of pick up at Target. The food banks in there, community gardens, neighborhood farmers markets, teaming up with Parks and Rec in the schools, making sure that after school kids go home with maybe some fruit, vegetables. It goes back to being healthy, making good choices as a young child, but figuring out ways to get food out into the community is something I would kind of like to work on. Definitely, I just have a lot of ideas in my head. Still need to sit down and see what's feasible and what's not. But most definitely teaming up with maybe a local store where discounts for food and vegetables.
Thank you, sir. Many households in this neighborhood are seniors. What are your plans for the seniors as far as transportation, food supplies, and centers? Ms. Cabello-Havrda, please.
So that's one of my priorities. I remember years ago speaking with Mr. De Leon about a need for a senior center in Edgewood. And so we're looking at bond dollars that are coming up, the 2022 bond, bringing bond dollars in to bring a senior center into the community. The nearest one, the only one for District 6 is the Lopez Center, which is on Culebra, which is far. You know, it's not easy to get to for people, the community in Edgewood. So we're looking really closely at areas near the Westside, actually, to put a senior center. I think also, you know, we talked about some of the outdoor areas to help cultivate senior fitness. We also started a walking group. One of my appointees, we got together and we started a seniors walking group, and they go to places like Kano Health Center of Marbach, and so they can walk indoors when it's hot, or of course they have outdoor walking trails, and they get together as a group and walk in safety in numbers, right? But it's really beautiful to see groups getting together and doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
So one of the things I would do to help seniors is get them another tax exemption. I think a lot, especially in the inner sort of Edgewood district, inner part of the city, they're getting taxed out of their property. Another thing I would kind of do, of course, better transportation. One of my main things is better infrastructure, better transportation. It's difficult to get around if you can't get to the bus stop. You know what I mean? When it is a pain to get to the bus stop, if you can't get to the bus stop, you can't go anywhere else. You're kind of homebound. Love to see different agencies partner together, Meals on Wheels, maybe connect them somehow with transportation. Seniors, my mom definitely is a senior, getting old in age, so I'm always looking out for her and how the best we could do as a city for her. So those would be my main things, pretty much tax relief and making sure they're able to get around. More funding for via trans.
Thank you. Mr. Baecker, I have a question. Is your name pronounced Baker or Becker?
It's Baecker. The A is silent.
That's what I thought, because usually in German, in names that come from German culture, it's the second sound you hear, so I was just confused. Okay, so Mr. Baecker, do you need me to repeat the question?
It was about senior transportation and food delivery. Is that right?
And centers, yes, sir.
You know, the first thing that came to mind is something like DoorDash, and HEP came to mind again, and trying to leverage the new services that we've seen over the last year, as far as grocery delivery or grocery pickup, grocery acquisition, however you want to put it. Stuff that a lot of us have employed for convenience that it would seem to be a little more of a necessity, more important for seniors. And it goes back to some of the other things we've discussed, the better infrastructure, the bigger focus on the classical infrastructure and removing taxes from necessities, including their houses, their housing. And again, you know, if there are still gaps to be filled, you lead by example, and enlist the community. You know, just enlist the community to help out those that need the most help.
Thank you, sir. Many of our residents have experienced harsh damages from the recent historic winter storm. How will you support and communicate in emergency situations and in general with residents who have no internet access? Mr. Hernandez?
One things I think we should have a phone bank where not necessarily internet access, but just hard lines where you could register your number for, because we all get the Amber Alerts on our phones off of our cell phones, but we don't get those Amber Alerts off those hard lines. So there should be a line, a number that you're able to register yourself for, and if it's an emergency situation, it would go out to that number. So that's one thing I would do. Another thing, I guess just more community awareness, making sure that if we ever get in that position when lights and everything's out, make sure that be aware, check on your neighbors. You know what I mean, check on the ones that are elderly. Like I said, that's really pretty much about it. I'm trying to think somehow to connect Meals and Wheels, but I think it'd be difficult to get anybody out during that time. But just making sure neighbors take care of neighbors.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Baecker?
The tighter knit a community is, the harder it is for people to fall through the cracks. So, you know, knowing your neighbors better, knowing those who have, you know, particular vulnerabilities. You know, that was what was a once in a generation, once and a half generation storm that we went through. The more tightly knit the community is, the more we can help those that need help. I know we were reaching out to a couple of people that we know whose power and water went out, seeing if they needed assistance. Yeah, just like I keep going back to the being a more as tightly knit of a community as you can. Something like an Amber Alert is a good idea. But just, you know, reaching out and making sure that we're in touch with as many of our neighbors as possible, and we create a web that's almost impenetrable, and we're more able to help people who need it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Cabello-Havrda?
Thank you. In the face of disasters like that one, I look for the opportunities exposed by the magnitude of the crisis. There's a lot of lessons I think that we learned from this last one, but we don't really learn those lessons if we don't do anything about it. So communication plays a critical role in allaying the fears during any time of active crisis. Fear breeds in silence, and 2020 has taught us a lot of lessons about our neighbors are affected by a lack of clear, consistent information. Many folks have limited or no access to the internet or television, like you mentioned, and that becomes increasingly unstable. We need more robust methods for sharing information as well as for identifying areas of urgent need. We have an emergency alert system to warn our city about the potential effects of the storm. We have to set up warming centers when we know the storm like that is coming. I don't think it's the last, you know, with the different changes in the climate, I don't think it's the last storm we're going to have to endure. And before the onset of the possible storm, neighborhood leaders, community advocates, first responders all show the agility that our community has, but we have to take it one step further in order to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Velma Pena, you'll be asking the next questions.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, for being patient with us. I know we're having some difficulties here and there, but again, thank you. This is going to be a two-part question. It's kind of long, so if I need to repeat it, just please let me know. Question one, and it'll be for Chris Baecker. In what ways will you implement and commit to work with neighborhood associations, coalitions, and other communities so that residents' voices play a key part in policy-making decisions made about their communities and ensure transparency and communication? Will you personally, as a public elected official, commit to meet with members of the Westside Neighborhood Associations Coalition within the first 30 days and on a quarterly basis?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. I mean, the districts are made up of these neighborhood associations, homeowners associations. I would meet with as many of them on a regular basis as is possible as I can, because that's, you know, on this local level, that's one of the most important. That's probably the most important part of our job is keeping in touch with our neighbors and even those who don't live right next to. I think those are the most important ones. Those are the ones to put priority on to go to these meetings, because if the further away you are, I think the more frequently you probably need to meet with those folks to stay in touch. So yes, ma'am, I would absolutely go to any homeowners or neighborhood association meetings just to, you know, keep my finger to the pulse of the district.
Thank you, Mr. Baecker. Same question for Ms. Melissa. Would you like for me to repeat it?
No, ma'am, I have it. Thank you. So, you know, meeting with HOAs and different neighborhood groups, that's the heart of what I do. I don't do anything in District 6 without the input of the neighborhoods. It's the primary job that I have because that's who I represent. And I take that very seriously. I mentioned before, it's never about what I want. It's always about what the neighborhoods want. In the interest of transparency, I did a CCR that allowed for a public messaging board. So any communication that I have with city staff, you can read it at any time. So I'm really grateful to have brought that into the city, and hopefully it'll get through council with a lot of ease. And if it doesn't, please call if you don't live in District 6, call your council person to talk about that. But I do commit to meeting with the Westside Coalition. Yes, absolutely. Within the first 30 days, we can meet quarterly, even as needed, even if it's needed more than that. There's a lot going on in Edgewood, and I'm very happy to have another access to input from the community. I go right now to every HOA meeting I can. If I don't go, I have a staff member go. I know a lot of the presidents, of course, I have my personal cell phone because it's very important for me to know what's going on in the communities, and who knows better than the people living in those neighborhoods. And then of course the boards and participators of the HOAs. So I appreciate all the work that you do with HOAs, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question for Mr. Robert Hernandez.
Without a doubt, this is why I'm running. I also felt disconnected from city council, so this is why I'm here. This would become my full-time position. Last night I was up to 1 in the morning, just on Facebook, talking to people. Woke up at 5 this morning, got up, started block walking. I mean, the city grew me, and I want to help the city. You know what I mean? Not within the first 30 days. You could call me election night, or if I'm lucky enough, the next morning, and I will pick up the phone. I will have an open door to anyone and everyone in the city, especially in the district. I plan on walking the district more. The more I walk the district, the more I love the district. The more I love talking to people, hearing their issues. I'll be open. I don't know if you have my number. I'll give out my number. I'm always reachable by phone, prefer text or Instagram. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Second question will go to Melissa. What makes you a qualified candidate for District 6?
I think number one, I'm born and raised here. I have the heart of this district always in my heart. I have the culture of the neighborhoods in my soul. You know, I really have very, very deep roots here. I've been involved in several boards and commissions throughout my life, really. You know, the Magic Children's Theater, Grandparents Raising Grandchildren, which actually started in District 6. Also Transplants for Children, all kinds of nonprofits that I've been involved in because I just love my community and I want to continue to do that. I mentioned my education. I have a JD. I have an MBA. You know, but I'm all San Antonio. You know, I've always lived here. The city has my heart, and everything that I do while I'm sitting in the District 6 chair is for the neighborhoods of my district. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Hernandez, same question. What makes you a qualified candidate for District 6?
So I'm San Antonio. You know what I mean? In the sense that I was born and raised here. I wasn't born in the district, but it's 100 feet away from me. I'm on the very edge of the border. I went to the community centers. Like I said, if without a community center, I might not be here. I might be locked up or something else. I don't have any degrees, but I have a degree from the heart. Last 9 years, I've worked in with the homeless population, very vulnerable, and I've learned so much from that. Just different situations, people situations, from working with people that were millionaires to just got down on their luck to people who never were able to get the education they needed. So I understand how important education is. Like I said, this is a passion. I have no other. I don't want to run for anything else. I want to help my community. Like I said, when I was younger, I worked Parks and Rec,
15
so
seconds.
I know what it is to have friends and even kids that were on my basketball team be killed. I understand that. Like I said, just San Antonio from the heart.
Thank
Stop.
you. Chris Baecker, same question.
When we moved out here, my oldest was just starting kindergarten. And that's the oldest of four, and she's about to graduate. Um, Ever since then, I've loved living around here more and more, to where I just get out more and more and just drive around, and just I love being out and about here. I try to, through those girls, I've tried to make the best possible citizens in the district, in San Antonio, Texas, and the U.S. That I can, and it took another step forward when I started teaching, just to try to help people understand at least my particular subject better, because I saw that there was the knowledge base was too
15 seconds.
insufficient. So I'm a I guess I'm a teacher at heart, and I want to extend that to this position, just to help the district and the city grow and flourish as much as much as possible.
Stop.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Our next question will go out to Robert Hernandez. There are not enough retail and public centers in District 6 West Side of San Antonio. How will you bring more resources into our neighborhoods where currently there are few? How will you support economic development in our neighborhoods? It's a two-part question.
Can you repeat? You said retail resources?
Yes, there are not enough retail public centers in
Shopping
district,
centers?
well, public, just in general, like it's okay. Retail. It says there are not enough retail and public centers in District 6 West Side of San Antonio. How will you bring more resources into our neighborhoods where currently there are few? How will you support economic development in our neighborhoods?
One things is, of course, COVID relief gets small businesses going back up, but we do need to have incentives from the city to bring retail. Like I said, HEB, when in the inner cities, HEB on Las Palmas, um, I like going there, but it's a super small store. You know what I mean? We got to get more. We got to get a bigger HEB. Maybe also as far as retail, I'm kind of confused by the retail part of it. As in like gas stations.
Well, no, there's other retail stores, that sell different things, not just a
So just like
particular food store.
more just I guess more general. I guess retail stores, incentives. So if we can have incentives for companies to bring in manufacturing jobs, we should be able to have incentives for companies to open shops up. That's what I believe. I hope that answers that.
Okay.
My fault for not understanding that.
That's okay. Thank you.
Stop. Okay, stop. Thank you.
So the same question for Chris Baecker. Sorry.
The retail public centers, you mean like strip centers, strip malls, like with different? Okay. I think it's important to understand that the a public body, the public sector, the government cannot create prosperity. as far as bringing economic development to the district, I think it's more important that we have respect for the sector that knows best how to do it, and that's the private sector. That's the people that take the risk to open their own business. And part of what makes it unnecessarily risky is having too many regulations to deal with, too many fees, too many taxes, instead of just letting these people take their chance on an idea they have and enlist people to help them as unimpeded as possible without getting in their way at all, I think is the most important thing. I think the most important thing is just to get out of their way.
Stop.
Thank you, Mr. Baecker. Melissa? Same
Thank
question.
you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So I think a lot of this is bringing economic development to that to the Edgewood area, and I'm talking about the corridor. I keep mentioning right the Riquelme Parkway, Old Highway 90. It's part of what we've been doing, bringing these businesses in, the bakery, Austin Bridge and Road, to create jobs and upskilling opportunities. Retail centers won't come to the area until economic development is solid. So that's really what I'm trying to build, that base of the pyramid, because once the economic development is strong in that area, then the retail centers will follow. Now we have been talking, I mentioned earlier, we're talking with different companies to come in, but we're very careful because we don't want to compete with the mom and pop small businesses that are there. But we do want to provide options. You know, we want to have, we don't want to have to drive across town to go to a nice retail center. I think a big part of this also is supporting the Westside project construction. They're part of ACCD, and they've really worked hard to talk about upskilling and bringing economic development to the area. And of course, I'm always going to support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Next question will go out to Chris Baecker. Currently, there are no vaccine sites in the near Westside in District 6. What would you do to bring a vaccine site close to our neighborhood and support those who do not have reliable transportations to big vaccine centers?
Probably go back to leveraging via public transportation as far as getting them there. This may sound odd, but food trucks, something like that for vaccination, like vaccination trucks, is just an idea that immediately popped in my head. Encouraging people to keep in contact with their doctor, see if the doctor has vaccines available. Those are the main ideas that came to my head when you asked that question. The whole mobile vaccination thing is prominent in my head.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll read the question again, and this will go out to Melissa. Next. It says, currently, there are no vaccine sites in the near Westside in District 6. What would you do to bring a vaccine site close to our neighborhood and support those who do not have reliable transportation to big vaccine centers?
Thank you. So the closest one that's at least it's city run is the Lopez Center, the senior center on Culebra, where the WellMed is. But there's also one a little closer, the Cano Health Center. I don't know if y'all knew that they're giving, city is giving them some vaccines to distribute. That's off Marbach, or kind of by Cable Westwood. But what they have that I think is really interesting and exciting is they have a mobile unit, and very soon they're going to be, we've been talking about bringing that mobile unit out into the community, just park there. And then, there's no appointments necessary. If you qualify, you're over 16 and you have underlying conditions, anything like that, you come in and they'll give you the vaccine right then and there. I think part of it is offering free via rides, because not everybody that, there's other places in the city that need it, but I'm always focused on District 6. But if people can come in and go to that mobile unit, but I think the very important thing is this mobile unit going into the neighborhood, and you may or may not even know it's going to be there that day, but you're, outside working on your lawn, and there they are, and you can walk right over there and call your family and let them know and get that vaccine. So it's really important that we continue to work towards that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I'm
Okay.
good. So first thing I would do is team up with mobile vaccines with Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels already have a connection with our most vulnerable homebound citizens, so we should be able to start vaccine Johnson & Johnson, one shot, we're done there. Also, another thing I would look into is using city buildings such as libraries, parks, and rec. Cuellar is already a testing site, so why can't we just turn that into a vaccine site right in the west side of the thing of District 6? And then another thing is a registry list. We need a registry. I know they're working on one. It's taking this long. We need a registry of our most vulnerable citizens so we can get them registered. Either going out to them and bringing them to the vaccine or taking the vaccine to them. But we do need a list of who needs our most vulnerable people that do need it.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. This concludes our questions. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to the closing of your closing remarks for the candidates. And after the closing remarks for the candidates, then we will have the coalition closing remarks. So I'll go ahead and start with Mr. Baecker with your 2 minutes closing remarks.
My enthusiasm for doing this has grown more intense over recent years, and it got a big swift kick last year about this time, and it's getting, I can feel it getting more intense as these months progress to May 1st. I look forward to this kind of a job, and I look forward to doing whatever I can to compel the government not to compel the government to give back by getting out of the way of people so we can go on about our business in the best way possible so we can flourish as a society.
Thank you, Mr. Baecker. And now we'll have Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks again for the opportunity to talk with you today. I'm proud to have been elected in the district where I was born and raised. I will keep serving the needs of our neighbors no matter what the outcome of this election. I love talking to neighbors in their neighborhoods, going to HOA meetings. And District 6 is the best place to live in San Antonio. It's the best place to grow up, raise a family, and retire. I'm grateful to raise my children here and have the honor and privilege of giving back to these neighborhoods that gave me a chance. I respectfully ask for your vote and the opportunity to keep serving our residents. And thank you again to the coalition for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Havrda. And now we'll have Robert Hernandez.
Again, thank y'all for having me and just all the candidates in general for doing this. Like I said, the more and more I get into this, the more and more I fall in love with it. Like I said, it's something from my heart that I want. I want to make sure this city is the best city. It is the best city. San Antonio has the biggest heart, the best people, and I want to continue that. I want to be able to help our most needy citizens. I don't have the education that some other candidates have, but I'm going to tell you what I believe, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to tell you what we'll be able to try to get done. I'm not going to promise stuff that I don't think I can get done. I'm not going to promise stuff that I know won't get done. I'm going to try my hardest. That's the only thing I'm going to do from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. I'm gonna try my hardest, and it's an amazing thing when I'm going to sleep and I'm there in bed and I'm thinking of other things, ideas. How can we make something better? How can we reach that one person? How can we make this city and individuals prosper? How can that one kid become a councilman? That next kid, how can I get that kid to be like, oh, I can do that? And that's why I asked for your vote.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you all. So now I will hand it over to Eric Estrada, president of Los Jardines. He will be doing the closing remarks. You're on mute. You're on mute, Eric.
Thank you. After unmuting everybody else, I forgot to unmute myself. Thank you, candidates, and to you, the audience, for attending. We want to thank the WNAC planning team, presidents, board members from the following associations in District 5 and 6 and Tier 1. Los Fuentes Neighborhood, Tier 1 Neighborhood Coalition, Los Jardines Neighborhood, Gardendale neighborhood, Westwood Square neighborhood. This kind of neighborhood cooperation is what the Westside Neighborhood Associations Coalition is all about. If your neighborhood would like any information, please contact WNAC at wnacoalition@gmail.com. Everyone, thank you again. Have a wonderful evening and the rest of your day. Thank you for participating.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.